Hi everyone. So we've got Roisin and Charlotte here from the Meet My Mentor community, who are mentors in our grad to grad program. So what we thought we'd talk about tonight was we've just got together. We're in the middle of the COVID crisis. I think we're in week 2 of the UK lockdown at the moment, and Roisin and Charlotte are both doing various postgraduate activities. So we thought we'd talk to you about what the current impact is on of the corona. I'm sure it's been upended in your world, and just to see what's your current situation and what have you found. So Charlotte, do you want to kick off from your side?
Yeah. So I'm a postgraduate research master's student. So I have a spot in a lab, and I'm working on underpinning the molecular basis of a rare bone disease, basically just trying to cure this. So as you can imagine, the whole lab got shut down. I spent 15 hours decontaminating the main facility that I use, because obviously I work on some human cells as well, and they're a different category to kind of just normal cell lines. So 15 hours decontaminating that, and alongside my other lab members, and had to kill a lot of the cells that I was working on. Anyway, I know people who have had to completely kill models, which take months to grow.
Wow. So this is because this is the protocol for when you shut down a lab. Is this?
Yeah. And really, so I guess there's the science part, and then there's kind of the communication part as well. We were given 48 hours notice for this, which wasn't really enough time to shut down all the facility, to shut down the instruments that we're using. Some of the microscopes need a significant cooling period for the lasers, which was a bit tight, all of this. So the last couple of days weren't fun, I'll put it that way. And obviously I will have lost a fair amount of work as well, but there's plans in place to kind of pick that back up again.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that's part of you were doing a particular research masters, weren't you?
Yeah.
So does that mean so where are you currently? So now the lab's shut down, and where does that currently leave you in terms of the progress through the masters? Obviously the research bit can't go ahead, the experimentation. Are you now doing other aspects to it, or?
Yeah, so what I am doing now is I'm home, but with my family, and I have been writing my thesis. So I've been writing the introduction and the methods. The upper limit to a master's thesis, by the way, is 60,000 words. So I've got a lot to be getting on with. And yeah, I've just been kind of consolidating notes and stuff like that. Ideally, I need to be back in the lab as soon as possible. So I think as soon as the restrictions are lifted, we'll all be going back there, because obviously the cells that I was culturing in the lab, it takes some time to get them back up and running again and get experiments going. So.
Wow. And do you think that will then prolong when you can graduate from your masters?
Yes. So I've been, over the past week or so, I've been chatting with the PI, so the project investigators in the lab, and I've managed to convince them to let me continue next year, basically into next year, to finish off the project. I got some really exciting results literally the week before we were shut down.
Oh, wow.
So the cells that I was like really excited about, I was like, right, you guys are having to go in the bin. But you know, it happens in research, and it could be far worse. I could be a key worker.
Yeah. Oh, yes, for sure. Yeah, but still, that's a big disruption, though. So, what about yourself, Roisin? What was your kind of media experience and where you're currently at?
So I suppose I wasn't quite as badly affected as Charlotte was, because I'm studying a taught masters. So there is a research element, but it's a small percentage of my overall grade. And it was quite a shame, because I was enjoying the data collection for my research project, and we've had to cut it short. But I'm lucky to have enough data that I can do the write-up. The main disruptions for me were we were meant to have 2 more modules taught in person, and just them coming in at the end of a module and saying, it was nice knowing you, we're going online for now, and then we didn't really have that chance to say goodbye. You know, I've only known these people for half a year, but it wasn't kind of the closure I was expecting from finishing the course. So that was quite a strange thing.
Yeah. So you're kind of continuing on. Those last 2 modules are being done online then, are they?
Yeah, we're in a module week at the minute, actually. Yeah.
Okay, fine. Or over Zoom or something.
Yeah, it's on Blackboard Collaborate.
Right.
It works quite well, actually. Yeah. And then the other difficulty is things that would have been supervised, like how to run certain analyses, is a lot more difficult to navigate when you know, you can share some kind of workspaces, but yeah, it's a lot of learning for everyone, I think. So.
Yes. Wow, and all of a sudden, yeah. And do you expect this to be? And when was your plan? Will this affect your completion of your masters, or do you think it might extend? Or
no, because I graduate next summer because my university doesn't have winter graduations. So actually, that's going to be fine for me.
Right. Okay, so that's not too bad. But there's a big transition from in-person learning to online learning, remote learning.
Yeah, definitely. It's quite a different experience.
What are the differences in the experience, would you say?
Well, it's less interactive to start with. I mean, we do have some facilities to ask questions, but I almost find it a bit more daunting asking them online because you can't see people's reactions. They ask us to all have our cameras off, so there's not too much going on the video.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Why is that, do you think?
I think it just slows it down when we have our cameras on.
Right. Okay. God, of all the excuses that you could have said, that's the worst one, I think. Yeah.
Well, yeah. Whenever someone they're saying they're having difficulties, they just say, "Oh, try turning your mic and your camera off." So, yeah.
Okay. So actually that makes it very impersonal, as you say. You can't see the reactions.
Yeah, and only about a quarter of my lectures are live now. The rest are pre-recorded ones. So then for a lot of those, we don't have really any chance to interact and ask questions. I suppose there's some facility to email the lecturers, but then you won't necessarily get a response.
Do the lecturers actually then just record the lectures from their homes to post?
They're from last year.
Oh, from last year. So they recorded anyway then?
Yeah, every lecture records, yeah.
That's both, I mean, that's interesting. So both severely, you know, it wasn't certainly the experience that you expected when you started your masters.
No.
What do you think might be the of this current experience? What from the education side, Roisin, what do you think do you think any of this might stick going forward in masters? Is it suddenly, obviously you pay a lot of money for your education,
Yeah.
While no one is particularly saying that this was expected, you know, would you pay the same amount of money to have an online experience? Is it just as effective? You know, how do you compare?
I would probably expect to pay slightly less for an online experience, but I think it kind of is showing my lecturers that, you know, you can be a bit more flexible and do things online, because we have quite a strict attendance policy, and so for some reasons, you know, you can't attend things sometimes, you know, because of illness or other commitments. So I think, you know, it's for things that don't necessarily need to be as interactive. It might, you know, it might make the course change in the future to fit around people's schedules a bit better.
Do you usually have access to recordings of lectures after
we do, yeah, but we have like a very strict attendance policy at my university.
From your perspective, Charlotte, how do you see the some of this legacy of what's happened? You know, how that might change, either just from, you know, the perception of science, because obviously science is now in the spotlight more than it ever has been, really, which is a great thing. Not great at the situation, but and of course everyone's an expert scientist as well, you know, on social media, whatever. But what do you think might be the kind of lasting impacts for this that we might see, that you're seeing at the moment?
So especially from my perspective, I think it's fascinating. I think it's so interesting seeing how people are actually reacting to this pandemic, basically. I think a lasting impact of it will be, listen to the scientists. Like, the politicians, you know, are obviously in charge, in power, but you've got to listen to the scientists. I mean, I'll say no more, just kind of look at the American way that they've been dealing with the whole situation.
Well,
I also think
I do like the fact that Boris comes out with the chief scientist and the chief medical officer. You know,
Mm.
so Boris has got to make a policy. That's what he's got to make policy, but he's clearly getting advice. You know, he's clearly,
yeah, and I'm not gonna, start taking, party sides, but I think given the circumstances, we are doing the best, and maybe we were a bit late to start off with, but we're doing the best we can in the situation that we've got now. I think it just people really do need to listen to the facts, and also use a bit of kind of, I don't know, your brain as well. When you're hearing something, is it from a reputable source? Are you hearing it online? Is it kind of negating things that you already know and you already know that are true? Is it kind of going against that? For example, we have a PubMed, which I use for all my literature searches. The searches for, virus, coronavirus, vaccine, absolutely gone through the roof.
Yeah.
So they're the main trigger words, but stuff kind of like, treatments, especially ones that have worked in the past. So in the article that I've written, I've mentioned a few that one of them works for malaria, and they're investigating that as a potential. You might have seen on the news recently looking at tobacco plants producing a vaccine, which is really exciting because because tobacco plants are very commonly used in plant research. We've got loads of them in the department, and they're using that to try and kind of construct a vaccine out of, which is exciting stuff. So yeah, I think people are going to listen to the scientists. I also think people are going to realize the impacts of what just one individual person can do, and that they are actually they can help. Just by staying indoors, you are saving people's lives. Like I've been so busy this week because we're actually getting RNA sequencing data from around Newcastle mainly in the hospital, and different like PhD students and different groups are getting sequences to analyze to help diagnose the disease. So even like masters and PhD students at university, which we're not fully qualified yet, we can help. And everyone has got their part to play in this, I think. So yeah, don't underestimate the power of an individual.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So there's a lot of crowdsourcing of the solution in there.
Absolutely, yeah. People are really pulling together, which is really nice to see.
That's interesting, yeah. And I guess it will. I mean, do you see it being part of the research? Being an over until we get a vaccine. I guess there's going to be the race on to get that.
Yeah.
But even beyond there, the idea of whether it's COVID is pandemic going to open up to be a big area of research? Well, today, is that going to be the hot new area now where everyone's going to want to be investing in, whether you're a government or especially if you're a government or a institution? Is that?
So I don't know if you saw on the news, it was on BBC last night, I think. There was it wasn't last night, it was the night before. There was a professor from London University who was a kind of disaster management. And he was saying that he's been planning, and it's been in kind of the pipeline to plan for a pandemic for about 15 years. And interestingly, the thing that got in the way and the thing that got kind of people's notice was Brexit. So all of the pandemic planning kind of got pushed to the side, and political kind of eyesight changed, I guess. So yeah, I think people will start taking pandemics seriously. I think the one thing that in the UK especially we have most to worry about, we're fairly lucky with natural disasters, we get a fair bit of flooding, but pandemics I think are the key worry for us.
Next one, yeah, because they were never gonna. I remember we did some pandemic planning years and years ago after Y2K happened, which was a long time ago. There was a lot of spare resource for risk management because that didn't really turn into anything. There was a lot of money spent on it. That was like a computer pandemic, I suppose, but didn't really. Anyway,
was that the turn of the millennial? Was it? Or...
Yeah, the turn of the yeah. So the Y2. Yeah, I kind of say that like everyone knows what it is, but you were probably hardly even born when that was happening. But it was a big issue at the time, and there was millions and millions and millions of pounds spent on preventing the turnover from 99 to 2000. You know, planes falling out of the sky and everything was all predicted. It never really actually happened. But anyway, as a result of that, there were loads of people employed in risk management who suddenly needed something to do, and they started to do pandemic management and business continuity and stuff like that. And we used to just kind of, we were so sick of them anyway, because they were kind of planning for this thing that never happened. They did something for about a year or two, and then they all disappeared and went and did something else. But so there had, you know, there was a response after that to redeploying the resources. But how do you see in your area, Roisin? What are you planning to do after your masters? Do you think that what you were planning to do will change as a result of this, or the area might change, or you know,
possibly? I've applied to do a PhD, hopefully at Cambridge University.
Yeah.
But for example, once I find out whether I get it or not, I'm a bit worried about starting to look for accommodation, because I don't know when this will be over and when I should start the contract. That's the main thing. I mean, I don't think it will change too much in my specific field, but I definitely think in psychology more generally, there'll be probably a bit of a growing interest in like public response to pandemics and things like that.
Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, that's more in the social psychology field, which isn't my area of expertise, but
yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, so there will be, yeah. And there will no doubt be some funding available for that as well, I guess.
Yeah, definitely.
Which is where you look at the incentives and then you can kind of predict the outcome. So that's really interesting. Well, thanks for taking some time this evening. I really enjoyed that conversation, because I think that's really given us an insight into kind of how the current situation is impacting the, you know, the educational landscape, and what might kick in, you know, what might kick in the future, and who knows where we are. We're only in very early days, but you know, unprecedented, weird times. So, okay, well, thank you very much.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Bye.